Gals, and NB Pals. I'm your host, Comrade Siren, and it's the second episode of PEA. I am joined today by two members of the P4P fam, Reverend Aaron, and the slightly cooler Bobby O. Since we already had Aaron on the show last month, why doesn't Bobby O introduce himself?
Wow, that's like the hardest thing to do is introduce yourself. I'm Bobby. I live in New York City my whole life. I'm old. I don't know. I'm fucking left wing as far as you can be, and I don't know. You introduced me like, oh, I'm a fucking wise ass. I'm a jerk. I'm funny, but I got a big heart. But I got a really big heart.
You're also a wobbly in good standing, right?
He's straight out of the Bronx.
He's a wobbly. He's a wobbly. He, him, by the way, for both Bobby and myself. And while Bobby is a wobbly in good standing, meaning that Bobby pays his regular dues, I, on the other hand, am not a wobbly in good standing as I have not paid dues in quite some time. But that should give our viewers, I think, a basic idea of where our leftism is. We're also both very much anti-fascist. And while Bobby has a long history and a devotion to metal, more so than punk rock, we won't hold it against.
Also, I just wanted to state that during the pandemic, IWW has been waiving membership dues from month to month. You just have to apply. Like every month, you have to go on the website and say, "I need a waiver," and they've been pretty good with it.
I need to I can pay the base minimum dues.
Yeah.
I actually need to start doing that again. But
yeah, it's like $6.
That's not what this show's about, though.
No.
We have topics, right, Siren?
All right. Well, let's get into. Yes, we have topics. We're talking a little bit about generational dread, existentialism, and dissatisfaction. Ooh, jazz hands. These are going to be some pretty heavy topics, but we'll try to poke fun at them. So let's get right into it. Generational dread. So one of you guys can tell me the generations you come from and how that affected the areas around you as you grew up, and kind of like the era that describes you guys.
So the generation we come from and the dread that comes with it.
Generation X.
Yeah. All day, Generation X, but I never put it on my hand.
Honestly, I feel like our generation got so gypped because, I feel like that's only been confirmed by the millennials and the Zoomers, because I feel like our generation was in the shadow of the boomers. Like, no matter what we did, back in my day, the weed was this. Back in my day, the music was this. Like, I mean, the boomers have been talking about their day through 3 generations now. You know what I'm saying? Like, when, in the mid to late 80s, when I was starting to discover like punk rock and heavy metal and, like youth culture, all you heard was some boomer talking about back in my day, and you still hear them fucking talking that shit. You know what I mean? So it's like,
we listened to Nixon on the radio.
I feel we got gypped and overshadowed. Yeah, like back in my day, no matter what band came out, no matter how far rock and roll the envelope got pushed, it all goes back to the 60s rock. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I like the Beatles, but give me a fucking break. You know what I mean? Like, seriously. Like,
no, generational dread is being in 2021 and having Layla as your ringtone.
That you know, like it's ridiculous. Like we totally didn't have our moment to shine, and we did for like maybe 3 seconds in the 90s, and then like the millennials came up on our heels, you know.
For sure.
And we're also a very small generation in comparison to the millennials and the boomers too. There's not as many Gen Xers. I don't know the exact figure, but it's definitely a smaller generation. We were also the first generation that couldn't expect to do as good as your parents. You know, like your grandparents, they had a city job. They fucking paid a mortgage their whole life till they died. Your parents had a city job and, you know, were able to raise a family on it and pay a mortgage till they fucking drop dead. But like Gen Xers, you got like dudes living with their mother still. You know what I mean? Like, and I know millennials and Zoomers are facing that too. But I mean, come on, like you got like dudes in their 40s and 50s don't have the same, what do you call it, economic power that their parents and grandparents had. And then forget about people that are marginalized. You know what I mean? Like, where does that leave them? You know. So I don't know. The boomers are a very disappointing generation because, you know, while they stopped the war in Vietnam and were like pretty much they carried the torch for like that revolutionary activist spirit, a lot of them just kind of fucking ended up becoming yuppies and run into the system that they fought against, you know?
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's close to my take too, Bobby. Like, okay, I want to state first and foremost that yes, I am from Generation X, and the reason that I embraced like punk rock in 1980 in the 4th fucking grade is because my generation is garbage. I just want to state that for the record. Like, Generation X was not all that much better than boomers. The people that I grew up with and went to high school with, fucking bunch of like just cement fucking noggin pricks, man. Like
cookie cutter.
Oh fuck, dude, and just it makes so much sense that a lot of these fucking, especially the dudes, became Trump guys. That fucking Trump, dude. Like
what was that whole Thatcher Reagan era?
Well, you know, and you mentioned, Bobby, that our generation sort of shined there a little bit in the 90s. I mean, it kind of culminated in that grunge Lollapalooza era moment, which a lot of us, and I know you, I assume you felt the same way. Man, I had such a fucking weird, bittersweet kind of relationship with all that. Like, it was kind of cool to go to a big festival with lots and lots of people that were into shit that I was into, because I'd only been in like little clubs with 30 to 50 people that were into what I was into. Like, I went to the first Lollapalooza. That was a trip, like to be with 2,000 people that were all freaks of my generation. Like, I'd been to some arena concerts before and stuff, but that was different. But like, yeah. But at the same time, it was like the
arena shows are always a little bit more controlled. But
well, you know, also, I didn't mean to go on that side tangent. What I really wanted to talk about was that generational thing. But I wanted to stay right out the bat that I don't. While I look back fondly on like promoting music and being involved in punk rock and all the stuff when punk rock and new wave and goth and all that, like that second wave ska, when all that was fresh and brand new, like I remember what that was like, strut. And I would trade that for shit, bro. Okay, but
well, I feel socially like our generation kind of had a shift, like by like the 90s, where, you know, in the 80s decade, I felt like it was like jocks with their sweater tied around their neck. And they would walk around Greenwich Village looking for a gay couple to bully or beat up. Whereas in the 90s, that wasn't okay anymore. You know, while it still went on, you know, I think it was more not cool to be like a fucking meathead idiot, like, you know, homophobe. Where like in the 90s, you started seeing like in the pop culture, like the media caught on to it, like with the like TV and movies starting to show those lifestyles, like on like, you know, daytime TV and whatnot. Like that was promising.
Hearing our music and movie soundtracks and shit. And listen, let me say, all that is absolutely true. And I'm about to let me wrap this up. This my earlier thought was that like so. have this weird thing, I think, of Generation X in common with boomers, in the sense that if you ask a boomer, every boomer says they were at fucking Woodstock, right? It's like this big thing. I mean, there must have been 700 million people at this few thousand person festival, right? Like, and in that same fucking vein, there's a lot of people who think like, oh yeah, you hear this so much from people our age. I was a punk rocker. And I instantly always go, no, you weren't. No, you weren't. Because no punk rocker goes, I was a punk rocker. You may not have a mohawk anymore. You may not, be wearing all the sort of accepted uniform of the original waves of punk rock anymore. But it's always right here. It's always still here. And now here's the thing, though. Maybe I should just speak for myself on this note, but I fooled myself into thinking that, wow, we've really overcome this. Like, it was not okay to call people the F word anymore. Like, this stuff was being really stamped down. And now, of course, having complexion like this, I did not have to experience the ongoing oppression and brutality that's inflicted on Black communities and Indigenous communities. And of course, the LGBTQ community, right? But so there's some privilege that comes with that perspective of going, oh, wow, we've overcome some things. But I did see a lot of the what I thought were the greatest aspects of punk rock culture, that get up in the face of it, question fucking, unjustified authority, question the status quo, and do it in the most loud, offensive, fuck it all way. I love it, right? And saw all that kind of saw our fashion and our style, which was stuff that you had to do permanently to you. Dye your hair, pierce your shit, tattoo it, like. That didn't exist before. That was weird when it all started happening and becoming more popular. But when all this started to go mainstream, I think we tricked ourselves and kind of forgot that there's still the rest of these other fuckers out here, man, that are still perpetuating and regurgitating the age-old America can bullshit from day one through slavery, through fucking Jim Crow, all of it. It's still all there. The capitalist fucking scumbags that oppress people so brutally and so in the most vile and foul, disgusting ways. And because, the dude at Jack in the Box has blue hair and a piercing, we think, oh man, my generation did great. And I went to a Pennywise show and I put my bandana on and I slam danced for 3 songs. So I'm so punk and fucking none of that is representative of our generation. Our generation, I think, failed millennials and failed the Gen Zers. And I think that they're justified to be mad at us as well. Boomers get the worst of it because they don't even have punk rock. And like you said, Bobby, I had so much respect for the early civil rights movement and the birth of the hippie movement and all this stuff. I was so enamored to be able a few years ago to speak on the steps of Sproul Plaza in Berkeley, to read Mario Savio's words.
The Panthers were booming.
It's one of the greatest days of my entire life. But here's the thing. So many of them did become young, urban professionals. Fucking yuppies. They got a real job.
Yep.
And I looked at that and went, you motherfuckers. Love was not all you needed. Clearly, you needed money, didn't you? You fucks. And everyone, that's where the stereotype of the Beamer becomes very popular in 80s culture and under Reagan and all that shit and all this self-indulgent garbage.
Greed and material objects.
And it is that deeply entrenched ethos that is America manifesting itself in different ways in generation after generation, perpetuating it generation after generation. Didn't start with the boomers, clearly, right? But they passed it on to us, and our generation has passed a lot of it on to and I'm sure I know I have indulged it in one way or another throughout the years and perpetuating it onto the next generation. But
I feel the millennials they were like the first ones in a while to actually make their generation about social justice and change. Whereas, you know, while the activist and revolutionary spirit is present in every generation, I don't really think that like so many Gen Xers made their whole generation about that.
You know? They all went to Woodstock. Like everyone in our generation was giving it to the man in the 80s. Like, no, you weren't, man. You guys were all wearing Z Cavaricis and Maui and Sun shirts. And didn't serve, but had
stupid necklaces.
Right, and just and all this nonsense, vapid mainstream, it was all appropriation crap. But you want to act like, because now you got a fucking couple punk rock CDs or MP3s or whatever you got, that you were giving it to the man. We were such a minority, Bobby.
Yeah, you know, like,
and that's how we were brought together. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying, like, Generation X didn't really make our generation about like being social justice. While we had elements of it and introduced all like spin and whatever, it was never really defined by that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and like, I don't know, like, I just, like, I was always radicalized by like grindcore records from the fucking late 80s. You know what I mean? Like, all like the super anti-capitalist fucking grindcore that was coming out of England back then, you know, like 87, 88, 89, like ENT, Napalm Death, you know, even before them, fucking Doom. But you know, you know, like most people now are interested in politics because like they made politics like a trend, something to do while you're on the internet, because there's like absolutely nothing left to do with the internet. So let's just use it to argue, you know, fucking. It's like, all of a sudden, like, people that like never gave two shits about like politics are all of a sudden like, you know, poli-sci majors. Like, really? Like, since when? Like, your teacher handed you your test back upside down so no one could see them. Like, who are you fucking kidding? Like,
but now you're an expert on fucking, you know, horse fucking dewormer.
Yeah, but like basically what I'm trying to say is Generation X wasn't about shit. You know what I mean? It was just like, you know, like after like heavy metal like ran its course and got played out in the 80s, they had to like change the image to fucking keep selling it. So that's how like enter grunge, you know, and it was just, you know, buy a flannel at JC Penney, you know?
And you know, and it's like, you see, I know I'm really hung up, but I see the world through the lens of being a punk rocker, of course. And I'm not trying to like, let me say this and then I have a second point. So two things is, I'm not trying to act like, oh man, I'm so bitching or Bobby's so great because we were punk rock real early and young when there wasn't that many. I'm trying to actually illustrate that there were so few of us to make the point that
just keeping it real. You know,
people were just bullshit. And that's why us and our little teeny groups became these punk rocker things, because we looked at our generation and the generation prior and we're like, this is garbage. This is fuck all of you. And I really want you to know, fuck you, man. You're fucked in your fucking head, yo. And I'm not with it. And then, but when we look back on this lens and try to appropriate this notion that they were, you know, like, okay, so when the alt-right tried to do the thing of, you know, alt-right is the new punk rock, like it's so astoundingly ridiculous. But I got what they were trying to say. It was this, which is that they never understood punk rock. Okay, because let's be real. There were a lot of people that were young that were alt-right, but a lot of them were our age. But they never got punk rock. They're like, oh, you guys just want to rebel for the sake of rebellion. I used to hear that all the fucking time.
And which is just projection.
Totally. And so then they come out.
Projection.
And now that's what they're doing. They embrace all the inaccurate stereotypes they tried to saddle us with as punk rockers, you know, or metalheads back in the 80s, and called the F word. How many times did I get called, you know, FHE and all that stuff?
Oh, yeah, all the time for having long hair.
But now they're like, well, we're punk rock because we're against the establishment no matter what, dude.
Well,
like, not what we're about. I know that's what you thought all along when you were picking fights with me and all my friends. But
what I say is just because you fucking mossed once to the Dropkick Murphys at Warped Tour don't make you fucking hardcore. You know what I'm saying?
At all.
Yeah. Like, just because you fucking mossed once to Five Finger Death Punch at Ozfest in like 1999 or some shit, like, or whenever the fuck that dumb band. But like, basically anybody that thinks like the alt-right is the new punk rock, they definitely have an extensive Five Finger Death Punch music collection on like however the fuck they listen to music, like on
Absolutely.
Spotify or whatever.
But,
fucking poses.
May I say something next?
The absolute worst.
Absolutely, please.
Well, yeah.
We kind of took over, didn't we, Bobby? Sorry, Sarah.
Hey, no, it's all right. Part of why I'm doing this podcast is I love when people talk. But I need to get my spiel across. In my generation, we don't really have things like the extreme like homophobia that you guys seen in like the 80s and stuff, because in my gen it's become like more acceptable to like be yourself. But on top of that, we are struck in by the things that no offense, Gen X and the boomers left behind for us. And we are affected by things like we live in a post 9/11 world. And so I never really grown up without living in like a police state. And I think that could affect so many people's perspective on how the world kind of used to be before we came into existence. But the world that we were brought into wasn't the best for Gen Z. Like, even now, like, as you know, we're getting to like the older edge, especially myself, on the older edge of being Gen Z. I think we have a rightful angst against former generations and the state that they left us in, and not to forget to mention that because we were born into this gen of post-Reaganomics, we don't get enough money to make a living. Like, we get poorer wages, and I mean, like, that goes for many other people, but what incentive is there to work when, you know, you barely get nothing of your labor? But, and I think that
it's lots ridiculous.
Of job hesitancy. You can go.
You know, I could give you like an example. Like, I remember like in the late 90s, if you went out on the town with your friends to Manhattan, you could bring like say $200-300 in your pocket just to feel like a big shot, and then come home with change. Now you can't go to Manhattan with $300. That's not enough. You know what I'm saying? And like, yeah, it's like serious. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you would go to like if you went to like a dance club with a big name, like say the Limelight, you know, if you're not like in with the people, you're paying $7 a drink. You know what I mean? And that was in the 90s. Now it's like a 2-bottle minimum. You know what I mean? Like in a fancy dance club, you know, and not just to do that, but anything like to go to the movies and get popcorn is going to cost you like $100, you know, whereas back in the day, that was like, you know, you took a girl or a boy or whoever, you know, a family, like, you know, a family of 4 went out to the movies on a Friday night, you know, and that cost like not even $100. Now two people is more than $100. You know what I mean? And it's offensive. And then they wonder why motherfuckers are downloading shit illegally on the fucking internet. Like, fuck you and your movies, you know? Even back then, we were bringing in our own popcorn and, like, cans of soda. Like, you cough when you open the can, you know? Like, you know? It's ridiculous. Like, you know, like, the prices keep going up, and the average wage hasn't fucking cracked, like, since the early 2000s. And then, you know, then you put 9/11 on top of that, and then the financial crash of 2008 on top of that. It's like, it's like one disaster after another that we, you know, now COVID. And like, we still haven't recovered from 9/11 or economically. I'm not talking about emotionally. Fuck the emotions. I'm saying, you know, like economically, especially as a New Yorker, you know, like our taxes fucking like, forget about it. That crushed us, you know? And then the collapse, we didn't recover from 9/11, and the collapse happened. We still didn't recover from the collapse, and that was 2008. How many years ago was that now? 13 years ago? And people still, you know, like you were talking about, like you people can't afford to like have a life. You know what I mean? Like you have to work, and then people blame poor people for being on welfare. Like I don't know any poor person that doesn't have 2 or 3 jobs and they're working like 80 hours a week and they're still fucking eligible for assistance. That's not right. How in what universe is that fucking even like
bizarro work?
Humane?
Well, there's in the homes of billionaires, they're like, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, you know, they don't have to worry about paying rent.
That helped me be a billionaire. Yay.
But I mean, like, all of this
No,
stuff,
but seriously,
like, you can continue, Bobby. I'm gonna finish this segment, but continue.
I'm sorry, I'm like stoned and babbling. You know what I mean?
It's all right.
I hope I'm like
we
like
can
making
go for more than an hour. Trust me. As long as it's good.
But yeah, but like that's like one thing. Like I got to give it to the millennials and the Zoomers. They use the internet to be more entrepreneurs, like whatever the tense is. You know what I'm saying? Like they use the internet in such an entrepreneurial way that like our generation never could. And like, you know, let's make no mistake, I'm 47, but I had fucking AOL back in like 1997. You know what I mean? I'm not like, you know, like I definitely grew up with the internet in my own right. You know, like I was in my 20s, but still, you know, like when I was like in my 20s, they always said, oh, 30 is the new 20. So it's kind of like they kept pushing us back too, in a sense. You know, it's like, stay at home, live with your mom. You're 30. It's okay. You're still 20. You know what I mean? And like, it's like such a fucking crippling mentality to push, you know? And, but yeah, like there's, I don't understand how like rent is like $1,200 for like one room. Like people don't even make that in a month in
like
some
one
jobs.
Room with a toilet
you know,
in the corner.
It's obscene. It's obscene. Yeah, you share the fucking bathroom with like 5 other people that are renting a room on the same floor. Yeah, it's fucking obscene. It's obscene.
I'm gonna finish this segment off by saying like the gen I come from, we do feel like we lost this sort of meaning in life. Like we're demeaned to this this place where we can't feel free to go out into the world and better ourselves and do things because we're always being pushed back by how much money things are costing these days, which is like very obscene. And it does like spark the question of what is the meaning of life? Existentialism. There you go.
So I could talk a lot on existentialism and probably still not get it actually right.
Yeah, same.
But I can tell you, I mean, so I have a couple books from existentialists that I've not just happened to own, but have, you know, actually read and studied. Nietzsche's a big favorite of mine. I've read a lot of Nietzsche and Sartre, and I've got Heidegger here and The Stranger by Albert Camus. And, you know, even Dostoevsky gets lumped in with the existentialists a little bit. I think what I love about Dostoevsky is he's down for poor people and prisoners and shit. But I mean, what is existentialism? So it's existent, right? Like, what is? I think existentialism gives way very nicely to socialism and material dialectics and historical materialism, because existentialism, I think the way I interpret it is it just says, okay, all the bullshit aside, all the bluster and all the flash and you know, sheen from like Reagan and then Clinton, all this stuff about what things mean and what they are. what does it actually mean? Is this shit real or is it not? Like, is it going to have the payoff that it is? Does it really mean, is my life what it's, you know, this thing that they're saying? Is America great? Is fucking, you know, do I have a destiny? Am I a religious creature? Do I matter? Do I even exist at all? That's a big, big moment in existentialism, okay? Because you had Descartes who said, I think, therefore I am. The existentialist came along and wrote long-winded tomes about, are you sure, bro? Can you prove it? Because you're going to have to. And guess what? No one's proven that we exist. You know, and then it gets very scary because that can get that can push up against solipsism, which I think it could be very dangerous. Solipsism being like the universe really doesn't exist, only I exist, and everything in the universe is just a perpetuation of what I'm thinking from my mind.
Like,
well, prove it.
Everything that the world revolves around them. When there's millions of other people.
Well, everything is everything.
But here's the thing. No, in true existentialist form, though, Siren, you can't prove that. I may be literally a figment of your imagination.
That'd be fine.
I don't know how to prove or disprove that. Okay.
Well, I do know.
And then these questions. So this is.
You.
Well, but ultimately these questions can really, if you really, really indulge them and you pull the thread on all the way, you could get to some very seriously dark answers to things that there's no meaning. And so that's where you get a lot of, nihilism. So a lot of existentialists can be accused of being nihilists because there's no meaning. Everything sucks. Fuck everything. And I don't buy that. Nietzsche lost his shit at the end. You know, he had to be locked in an asylum. And
you know what? Real quick, I wish my bills were a figment of my imagination.
But I think, but here's the thing with this stuff. I think it's important to ask these questions, but we don't have time in a capitalist society to really indulge these to their fullest end, right? But I don't know. I try to retain elements of existential questions in a lot of the things I do. Like, I just think that, oh yeah, really? Like, are you sure though, bro? Like, to me, that's a way existentialist fucking, and again, that's where I may be wrong. I might be departing from traditional existentialist thinking, but I think that's one of the things that I recognized as an old punk rocker when I went later and started reading these existentialists is like, this is some of the best question everything shit I've been saying as a punk. Question everything. Like, this gets to it.
I think humans want some form of meaning. Like we all do want some sort of meaning in our lives. And with that, like what is the meaning? Well, I think personally, what gives life meaning is you, because you're the one making choices for yourself, and you decide the merity of your own existence. Like that's something I really think about, and I believe it's true because, like, if you didn't have any meaning in life, would you go out and try to do things for yourself or for others? Like, these are some deep questions.
So here's the thing where bear with me on this, comrade. So I have a very, very serious hang up with the word believe. When I come out and say I believe a thing, when I say I believe a thing, oh, you better believe that I spend a lot of time on that thing. And I am supremely confident. Doesn't mean I'm always right because I say I believe. Okay, but I've spent a lot of time in study and research, and for me to boldly say, I believe this, to me, I don't take that very lightly. I also like Robert Anton Wilson a lot, and he really pushed this whole notion about, it was really central to a lot of his writing about how you need to be able to reassess your worldview in the light of new information, right? And he would quote, I don't think he originally coined this phrase, but he used it a lot, which is that belief is the death of knowledge. Because when you establish a belief in something, you're much more inclined then to defend it. This is what you see on the right a lot, and with liberals a lot too. It's like, well, I believe this, especially with right wings. They'll see a headline, not watch the news story, in a flash, in a moment, make a determination what they believe about that, and then defend that for 50 years of their life till they die, no matter what comes in the face of it, because I believe. Now,
that's 100% right.
That's terrifying. And then the existentialists are just going, believe? Why would you believe anything about anything? Like, there's no way to know.
Like, I mean, like, when I said I believe, I meant, like, it's my point of view. I don't necessarily stand by it because things can change, but my point of view was that.
Absolutely.
But I do agree that belief is what is belief, you know?
And here's a term that's been useful. I totally thank you for clarifying. And I know that you're definitely, Siren, you have in many ways, aside from the most obvious, in many ways changed and been open to change the entire time I've known you. That's one of the reasons I think that we get along so well and why I respect and appreciate you so much. I wasn't told in you. So here's a term that's been useful to me is where I'm at now is, that just comes in so helpful. It comes in so handy rather than, well, what I think, what I believe is, well, you know, where I'm at right now is with this. And that leaves room. You can still state your thing then boldly. Right?
That leaves room to grow.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But I mean,
and I think that gets to the root.
If you don't have a good mind on your shoulders, that can lead you rooms to not grow. But in most of our cases, we do grow from, you know, what we learn and who we become.
Also, who you surround yourself with as well.
Yes, definitely.
You know, like you could always, you know, like definitely, like we're influenced decisions, even, you know, whether subconsciously or consciously or not. Like, you know, you're definitely influenced by like your surroundings. You know, the people you're surrounded by, like your environment. You know, I just feel. We're just here to create and express, but the way that society is structured, all we could really do is survive. You know.
What was the last thing?
I said it's all about who plants the seeds and who helps them grow.
It's like that whole nature versus nurture. But really, you know, like it's all about creating and expressing yourself. That's why we're here. We're here to create and express. But you can't do that because you have to survive. You know, you have to fucking get on the hamster wheel and just, you can't stop. Because if you stop, you're going to be even more behind than you already are, you know.
And how easy it would feel like you don't exist in that grind. I go here, I put the widget in the hole, and then I go home, and then I go back, and then I put the widget in the hole, and then I eat the thing, and then I go home, and then I put the widget in the hole, and then I eat the thing, and then I go home, and I put the widget in the hole, and then I go home. And like, to me, man, like, I say this a lot in different videos and stuff, but my art and my music and my painting and my writing, it doesn't matter whether fucking anyone appreciates it or whether it's good or not. In a lot of ways, it does affirm that I exist. For me, it helps me stamp something on the wall. I did. Well, it does though. It helps me affirm that I've stamped something onto the world rather than just been caught up in the fucking wind of it. And I used to be more dismissive and maybe forgiving, and I'm actually trying to get back to that, some of people who live that way, because it's the mass majority. But if you do, It's just you got to understand that my material analysis, what I see as the existential reality is that we're in post-imperialist capitalism. We're in failing imperial capitalism. And like, you can't just go with the flow because you'll do toxic shit. You'll go out and say, the Fauci ouchie, not me and my freedoms. And then, can you donate to my GoFundMe? And then your family has to take up a GoFundMe because you're a dead person,
Satan's jab.
Yeah. And to be so angry over that. And like, there's just so much more that's worthy of anger. And that's why, I mean, we could get, it's a whole other thing, but like, none of those people question literally anything, let alone whether they actually exist or not. I mean, it's, Star Trek was always out looking for that sentient beings, those people who are, like, sometimes I wonder how sentient these fucking beings we're sharing the planet with actually are. Because research means turning on the Facebook. And that's an existential threat. It is. I mean, there are people who are sick and dying that can't get in an ER because fucking don't take my freedoms away, dickhead, is taking up a bed because he didn't get a vaccine. And now he's fucking on a ventilator and shit. And there's not a room for the fucking, now the ambulance got to drive somebody who actually fucking did all the things right, but got into some kind of accident or something or whatever, or had a heart attack and can't get in, and they fucking die. And that's real.
10 years from now, having a ventilator in your house is going to be like the norm. There's going to be like a ventilator next to the bathroom.
In the future, everybody's going to have to pay for oxygen.
Not for nothing, like in the 1980s, who would have ever thought that you could buy water in a fucking plastic bottle? They didn't fucking sell water in the 80s. Are you fucking kidding me? You got fucking juice and soda. They didn't sell water. Like, that shit started coming around like 88, 89, 90. It was the norm by 95. But like, most houses didn't even have a water meter on them. You know what I mean? Like, we started getting a water meter in like the mid 90s. Before then, it was just water was free.
First time I saw a water bottle, I was like, you mean like from the toilet?
Like Avion. Fucking Avion, I think, was the first one that I ever saw. And that must have been like the late 80s. And I was like, what?
And who was the first person drinking that shit? Was yuppies.
Yeah, like, I was like, what kind of rich people shit is this?
Avion water. Like, fuck off. Fuck off with your Avion water. And now
I thought, like, they always touted New York tap water as like the best in the country. Why do I have to buy it in a bottle?
Well, I have to say, where I live, the water is fantastic. But our water is runoff from Lake Tahoe. It is really yummy water. That's one of the things we're lucky in this area. But Flint ain't that lucky. I mean, we're making jokes about bottled water.
Yeah, really.
And
it's like going on like 2 decades. Like, how does that problem? Like, how is that allowed to continue?
By going with the flow, by not questioning your reality and questioning the things that surround you, ignoring existential threats. I think we totally butchered the concept of existentialism, Comrade, but I had fun.
But we did talk about existentialism. We didn't say we're, We did. But
let me suggest, actually, if I might, Comrade, I have a bunch of different of Nietzsche's writings, and I don't know if you can really see this, but this is it's just basic writings of Nietzsche. This is such a fantastic, if you're new to, and want to check out who he is and who he was. And it's a fantastic intro too. And it's a good overview of his career in writing. And it's a fantastic introduction to what existentialism is. I mean, most people really tend to quote this guy, Sartre, a lot when you talk about existentialism. And I don't know, for something Nietzsche just had like spoke to me better. I don't know why, especially because Sartre was even like political activist and leftist and stuff. But I don't know, but his writings just didn't speak to me like Nietzsche's does. And I think that really is a fantastic introduction, the basic writings of Nietzsche. So,
Aaron's book recommendation,
for anybody,
everyone. If you want to know more about existentialism, check out that book he recommended.
Definitely.
It's called Everyone Poops. It's by Taro Gami.
That's it. Join the Reverend Aaron Patreon book club.
Yeah.
Join the club for $59.99 a month, and every book that we'll be reading, I'll download them for free and give them to you, and that's what you get with your membership package.
Yeah.
And we'll send you a mug.
And actually, what it'll be is Google it, shithead, and then you can donate to fucking Food Not Bombs. Fuck off.
That's it.
That's my grift. That's my grift. Donate to your local Food Not Bombs.
Check out my Patreon where I fucking where I post content that I will fucking upload to the internet for free 3 days later. But if you want to see it first, check it out.
All right. Well, I think the question of existentialism, it does bring up an era of what makes people happy and what makes people dissatisfied. And dissatisfaction is our next topic. So, being dissatisfied with something means that you have you're not satisfied. You don't feel like you get something out of what you're doing. And within generations, just different people in different communities, they feel dissatisfied with the way that the world is and how it works for them in their communities. Do any of you guys have something to say on that?
Well, I think a lot of people feel like their best days are behind them. And I think that goes across generations, across the political aisle. Listen to me, I'm talking, back in the 80s and everybody's talking about back then. Yeah. Even millennials and Gen Z will talk about when I was a kid, it was so much better. You know what I mean? Everybody has
it's
that
extreme nostalgia based.
Tip, and also even, yes, everybody's instead of looking to the future, everyone's just kind of stuck in how things used to be better. Even the right wingers want to make America great again. You know what I mean? As if they're dissatisfied too. And we can't neglect that, because whether we agree with these people ideologically or not, they're in that same state of dissatisfaction. Things aren't going how they used to anymore for people. Things cost more. You can't expect to do better than your parents did. Things aren't as good as they were when you were in high school. It just, everybody's dissatisfied, and that's just because capitalism is fucking milking the last fucking penny out of everybody. And you need money to survive, whether you like it or not. Whether you're the most ardent communist, you have to fucking survive. In this Western society, so you have to work. And if what happens, you can't just, not everybody has the privilege of just sitting back and not working, and just being a trust fund baby or whatever, it's just, that's the reality of it. People are dissatisfied because there's no time for joy or pleasure, and everything is just survival mode. You have to compete with your neighbor who you should be working with instead of competing with, because, it's everybody's got to get that last crumb. And
you look at both Brave New World and 1984, and they're both about dealing with dissatisfaction, right? Because it's all right, we're going to, it's two different perspectives on how to hold the masses in subjugation, right? Seems like Brave New World found a slightly more pleasant way. Just keep everyone really fucked up and high all the time, you know, fucked up and fucking, you know, and where 1984 is just dark as fuck. But it's how are we going to deal with the fact that the masses that we're subjugating aren't going to like it, that they're going to be dissatisfied. And so like that 80s thing, like, I don't know why Reagan is such a theme tonight and 80s era stuff, but that was all about, it doesn't suck. It's great. Buy lots of flashy pink things and neon colors, and it's fun. What do you mean? It's Zima. It's Zima, and it's new. I drink it. And la la la. And
Beanie Babies. Beanie Babies, Pokemon, catch them all.
I think envy.
Gotta have them all.
I think envy has parts in some people's dissatisfaction with life because we're in the age of social media, so people are always looking online on Twitter, on Facebook, and they're seeing all these people with mostly rich freaking billionaires with all these nice things, doing fun stuff all the time, like
looking pretty, having fun.
People can
and
grasp
people that
that
don't
with
have
a
that
sense of envy, and that I think that's a big part of some people's dissatisfaction because, you know, you're not part of a world that is favoring you.
Well, and that's built into it, comrade. It's very astute that you recognize that. That's absolutely, because we have to be trained to be envious. Otherwise, we wouldn't think that we could rise. We wouldn't foolishly believe that we can rise above our the economic status we were born into. That is to say, there is no such thing as social there is no social upward mobility. That's economic upward mobility is not a thing that exists. But if you envy the guy that has a little more, you might work a little harder to think that, hey, maybe I could have what they have. Yeah. And ew, that's gross because, you know, I don't want to envy other people. I mean, look, of course I do. There's people who have knowledge, who have accomplished things. I envy them. Right. But we're being trained in capitalism to envy our worst natures, to envy someone who did whatever they could to get ahead and have flashy, shiny, neon colored things. And, you know, so and of course envy, and it's not going to be sustained. Like the envy is not, if the envy had a payoff at the end, a positive payoff, okay, I can see how that could be healthy and positive, and it's okay to want to emulate someone's positive achievement and envy what they've accomplished and then try to accomplish that as well. But what we're being encouraged to envy is something that we probably aren't ever going to get.
And that's dissatisfaction.
But you keep trying, and then it leads to the dissatisfaction. You know,
you're never gonna be rich.
It's just not.
And you know what? Like I feel like with a lot of young people, I don't know, like if I'm off on this, but I feel like a lot of young people never had the ability to have like those flashy, fun lifestyles that maybe were a little bit more accessible to like the older generations. So the only thing they can do is look at it on social media to like at least get a taste of it.
Especially
and then that just breeds
now,
resentment and like, you know, and dissatisfaction.
More kids are online and like some are born to like I would say lower middle class families that necessarily don't have a lot of money, that are living sort of paycheck to paycheck. They don't get to go to Disneyland. They don't get to go to freaking Canada or whatever to see Niagara Falls. Like it's wild world, and it's extremely sad that some of those things can't pay off.
Well, why do you think these right-wing fucking things are so into their idea of what the Punisher is. Because look, I know I always come back to this, but I have to reiterate that these poor white oppressed people, they're driving around in like $80,000 trucks with Punisher stickers on them. Okay. Why is that? I just really want to understand what's in their fucking head. And it's because they're dissatisfied. Okay. The things that they were trained their whole lives to envy were vapid. And like I said, didn't have the payoff at the end. Really, all they have is that truck and that house and whatever, and the things, the 1950s sitcom. They got those things. The wife and the 2.5 kids and the whatever, maybe a little boat or whatever their motorhome thing they have for the weekend.
The son named after them.
Right. They got all that. And again, all of that stuff really, it can be wonderful, and I really encourage people to seek family life. I have no issue with that. That's not the point. But you have to understand that there has to be more to life, otherwise you're not gonna be satisfied. Okay, and so these alt-right guys and these people that are going and screaming at school boards. It's not even alt-right anymore. I really need to kind of get away from using that term. It's such a new manifestation now.
It's more of
the anti-vax post-Q. It is just bigots. But the far right and like the reason they're going and screaming at these school boards and all these things is because
for critical race theory when
it's not enough. And they always film themselves. When I went out and I filmed on the street and stuff, I'm pointing my camera at like right-wing people's faces. It's not, look at me doing a thing. That was always weird to me. Like,
I think I could boil down the Punisher obsession a lot simpler. I just think, hey, look, that's a badass skull. He punishes people. That's badass.
I wish I could punish people because my life is sad.
Yeah,
but vigilante justice,
they're raised to think that like being a badass is like cool and what a man should be. So that's it. It's the imagery, the name, and like it's a big guy with muscles, a cool skull, and he's a Punisher. That's it. They don't even know that he's a fucking rogue cop that kills cops.
No, totally.
They don't know.
And what it is too, Bobby, is they're like, it's like being, I could beat the shit out of you is not really like conducive to social situations. And it doesn't make you sound very America freedom. So what it is I could beat the shit out of you because I'm Batman, bro. I'm American Batman. Yeah, I'm Batman America, and I'll punch an Antifa in the face. And again, it's not just to make a joke about them. It's about like trying to get to how did they get there? I think it gets to a lot of these very fantastic topics that Siren chose today. Genuinely, there's that generational dread. They're experiencing it too. Because I'm sorry, if you've accomplished all the things you were trained to accomplish in Generation X and Boomer, it's not going to satisfy you as a person, and you're going to experience that generational dread because you're going to be taught. Well, my dad did it, so does that mean that my dad sucks too? Does that mean my grandpa is a failure? Like, I don't think that's some heavy bags you carry around. Okay. And that's not satisfying. And all this envious and dissatisfaction.
Worse than that, their fathers and grandfathers were able to do it.
Right.
They're not. Now, are they a failure? That leads them to question their existence. Because they don't
want to do that. They don't want to do that. Oh shit! That scares the shit out of the average. So
they have to. So they have to look for people to blame for how come my parents were able to do it, but I'm not because it's because of the border, or it's because of this, or because of that. You know,
critical race theory. Critical race theory is why. Yeah. You should take ivermectin because. Otherwise, critical race theory will go to the school, and then the nurses, doctors will microchips in your brain. So
that's it. They're trying to make Santa Claus black.
Yeah. Yeah, don't pay attention to that deep gnawing dissatisfaction in your gut, that black juice that's always gnawing at you. The reason that you drink a fifth and a half of Jack Daniels every Friday night, maybe two, just squish that a little bit more. And then on Monday, you can go yell at a teacher at a school board meeting.
That's it.
And be Batman. And you'll be Batman.
You'd be the Punisher.
Yeah, you're the Punisher, dude.
Punish them. Yeah, man, it's like not even that complicated with them. They like the Punisher because it's a fucking badass Marvel cartoon character. Stan Lee denounced them all before he died. He was like, did they even bother to read my comic? Like,
but that's what it is. I think that gets to, if I've learned anything over like being hyper fucking attuned to the right wing for so long, is it is all those things again, Siren. These issues that you're talking about. That's why I keep coming back to talking about the right wing. I keep thinking about them in these topics and like how detached they are from understanding existentialism. And even though it can take you to some dark places if you indulge it wrong, it's important to question your reality, the very nature of reality itself every now and again. Get your bearings a little. Ask yourself, am I the thing that I have been telling myself I am all this time? Or
but you know what the
am I Batman?
The thing is too, like you expect these people to understand existentialism. They call Medicare for all pie in the sky. Like you expect them to understand a concept like existentialism and to ask the hard questions when they can't even understand basic concepts.
Right. You're absolutely right, except to say that I don't expect them, clearly, I don't expect them to know what existentialism is, but it's really sad state of affairs how deeply detached they are, how many degrees of separation away from even understanding that. That's very important.
These are people that think that capitalism is a viable system,
Right.
Like they can't even imagine a world without capitalism. I almost said
if you can't question yourself and your reality, you're gonna be miserable.
I do.
What remains repressed will be expressed inappropriately.
I do have one little thing before we do close up the show, and that is I do want to pose a question. Because the show is called Proletarian Entertainment and Action, but where's the action part? It's coming right here. How can you be somewhat satisfied with life? My answer is create things. Be a part of something that's not hurting other people.
Help people.
Exactly. And
help people.
Why I call the show what it is
that, you know what I'm saying?
I want to at least help people in some form or another and have them enjoy listening to our conversations. And I want people to know that no matter what happens in life, you can always strive for something better. And you can strive to become satisfied with parts of your life that you might not be in tune with. Aaron, I can see that you probably want to say something.
So yelling at a school board meeting about the Fauci ouchie is not the way to do it?
Not that I know of. It wasn't in my Dungeon Master's guide.
It wasn't in the Dungeon Master's Guide yelling at school board meetings.
Well, I definitely recommend going into a cemetery to praise the god Pazuzu as many times during the week as you can. Just don't get caught. Of course, I don't condone breaking and entering. Seriously, like let me stop being a dick. Just helping people and not expecting anything in return is probably the best medicine that you could fucking do. Like, I know that's like easier said than done, but give me an example. I don't know, like if you see a woman struggling with her baby carriage, like getting into the subway, help her carry it down the steps, and then don't hit on her. You know what I mean? Like, then keep going. Have a nice day and keep walking. You know, like just random acts of kindness kind of like help keep you sane. You know, I know that might sound weird coming from me, but like it's definitely, that's something you could do. Like, I don't know, like get a job that's like in like social justice or social work. That's always like an alternative, you know, like what else? What other things can you do to help make people feel better? Giving somebody, like entertaining people by making them laugh, you know, like tell jokes and be funny so people laugh, not so people say, oh, that guy's really funny, you know, like be that person. I don't know, I'm high. Fucking laugh at me in the comment section.
Okay. I thought the voice crack. Okay. So for people who don't know, you can give us questions in the comments and we'll be sure to answer them. But as for now, this is a wrap up.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me on again. You know what? Maybe you should tease. You got some what I consider to be some pretty freaking cool guests coming in one. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Is it the next one or the one after?
It's next month. Surprise guests.
Some musicians and yeah. Musicians that are close comrades and friends to the channel, but we've never spoken to them on the channel. We've featured their music live a number of times, but we've never spoken with them on the channel. So I'm excited to see that one. And that that's the next month, Siren, or
Yes.
the month after, you said?
Next month.
Can I spoil it?
The
I think I know who it is.
I'll let you take a guess, Bobby.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert. Whoa, before you spoil it.
Is it
Next topics are life.
is it Total Massacre?
I don't know, is it? I thought it was partial. I thought it was partial meeting.
Well, actually, okay, look, I'm just going to tell them. It's Michael Graves and Morrissey. Michael Graves and Morrissey are coming on.
Morrissey, we're going to be talking about.
I want to see. I want to see Glenn Danzig and Michael Graves in a mud wrestling match.
Oh shit! I don't. I would like to know that happened, but I don't want to look at it.
Next month,
I would definitely enjoy that.
Next month we'll be talking about life, identity, and acceptance. So stay tuned.
Nice. Thanks for having me again, comrade.
Stay metal.
It's wonderful having both of you here, especially Bobby. I knew that he was going to make this episode like 10 times better because he's funny.